Morning, church. Such a powerful scripture reading today. Is looking at the difference between what the world calls us to be about and what God calls us to be about, because He's the provider of all things for us. Go ahead and just start with prayer. Father in heaven, again, here on your Sabbath, Jesus, we come to seek your face, to lift our minds to that which is higher than the cares of this world, higher than the weights of our week, higher than the greatest joys that we have known also. And so God, that in this time again, we just invite your Holy Spirit to speak to our hearts and our minds, Lord, and your angels that excel in strength and wisdom to be amongst us and to speak to us also, the things pertaining to the plans you have for our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. The message this morning is called Take Stock. We are finishing up in 1 Timothy chapter 6 in our series on 1 Timothy. And the instructions that Paul has been given Timothy and how to take care of the new church that they were working with in Ephesus. And he calls them to evaluate and that which is of this world rather than that which is of eternal. And so he's letting him know that people need to take stock in what it is that they are focused on in this world. I'm going to read this as usual, reading first through the passage and then going back through it. I'm going to read it. I usually preach from the New King James Version, just letting you know that's the version that I usually use. But I'm going to read this first, though, from the Message version. It's a little bit more of a paraphrase narrative. And so 1 Timothy chapter 6, it says, "Whoever is a slave must make the best of it, giving respect to his master so that outsiders don't blame God and our teaching for his behavior. Slaves with Christian masters, all the more so. Their masters are really their beloved brothers. These are the things I want you to teach and preach. If you have leaders who teach otherwise, who refuse the solid words of our Master Jesus and godly instruction, tag them for what they are: ignorant windbags who infect the air with germs of envy, controversy, bad-mouthing, and suspicious rumors. Eventually there's an epidemic of backstabbing, and the truth is but a distant memory. They think religion is a way to make a fast buck. A devout life can bring wealth, but it's the rich simplicity of being yourself before God that matters. Since we entered this world penniless and will leave it penniless, if we have bread on the table and shoes on our feet, that's enough. But if it's only money that these leaders are after, they'll just self-destruct in no time. Lust for money brings trouble and nothing but trouble. Going down that path, some lose their footing in the path of faith completely and live to regret it bitterly ever after. But you, Timothy, man of God, run for your life from all of this. Pursue a righteous life, a life of wonder, of faith, of love, of steadiness, of courtesy. Run hard and fast in the faith. Seize the eternal life, the life you were called to, the life you so fervently embraced in the presence of so many witnesses. I'm charging you before the life-giving God and before Christ, who took his stand before Pontius Pilate and did not give an inch. Keep this command to the letter and don't slack off. Our Master, Jesus Christ, is on his way. He'll show up right on time. His arrival is guaranteed by the blessed and undisputed ruler, High King, High God. He's the only one death can't touch. His light is so bright that no one can get close. He's never been seen by human eyes. Human eyes can't even take him in. Honor to him and the eternal rulership of him. Oh yes, tell those who are rich in this world's wealth to quit being so full of themselves and so obsessed with money, which is here today and gone tomorrow. Tell them to go after God, who piles on all the riches we could ever imagine, to do good, to be rich in helping others, and to be extravagantly generous. If they do that, they'll build a treasury that will last, gaining a life that is truly life. Oh, my dear Timothy, guard the treasure you were given. Guard it with your life. Avoid the talk show religion and practice confusion of the so-called experts. People caught up in a lot of talk can miss the whole point of faith. May overwhelming grace keep you. So taking stock. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, there were hotels in Chicago that would ask a question when people would check in. Because people were starting to rent hotel rooms to jump out of skyscrapers to their death, committing suicide in the midst of recession, which takes place in each recession when losses and great losses of wealth have taken place, and how are they going to survive and what will become of them. So when they would check in, the clerk would ask them, are you here to sleep or here to jump? When you put your hope in the wrong place, in the wrong investment, it can have a poor outcome. But Jesus Christ has an eternal outcome that he's looking for us for. And so he invites us to look at how we're investing in that portfolio and in that future. So at the beginning here, as Paul is speaking to Timothy about some of the situations with being servants and having earthly masters or unbelieving masters. Sure, there are many of you here that work for people that may not be Christian. Your bosses or your supervisors may not be believers in God. So we can see that as a modern example. But his command is the same because the principles are different. We have two slaves that we're dealing with in these first verses, and one belongs to an unbelieving master, and one belongs to a believing master. And to the unbelieving master, the call is given to this believer slave, this believer servant. And he says to them, count your masters worthy of all honor. Count them worthy of your honor. To those who are believers, he says, do not despise them because they are your brethren. God has a greater kingdom principle that he's working out here on earth in whatever situation you may be in, whatever work environment you may be in. He has his principles that he's trying to establish. One of the things that my dad likes to talk to me about is investing. Investing for the future. A good parent wants to make sure your child is sound and secure and going to be able to have a good life and a good retirement. And so I get to hear the words of investment. And one of the things that when you're looking at the investing and in stocks, you have your stocks that are high risk stocks. You have your lower risk stocks in investing. And when it comes to those, oftentimes the more high-risk stocks could be something that's trendy or something that's newer on the market or markets that have not been around for a while, so they're not as stable. And so it really is a risk. Are you going to invest in it or not? Is there going to be a return or not? But those low-risk stocks, more around like Fortune 500s, they have a history of being more reliable. The gain may not seem as the increase may not be as great at the outset, but it's that slow and steady upward movement and trend as you're looking at how do I financially plan for where I want to be in 5 years, 10 years, and in the future. So here, Paul is giving some advice on that. Because if you're looking at how do I plan for my future, it's going to cause you to make different choices in different situations. And as we can look at life or look at the market, it's not a case of looking at to the day-to-day. Because there's going to be those highs and those lows, but it's about being on for the long road, the long ride, and that's where you're going to see your greater outcomes. So here again, Paul, when he's talking about slavery and how to navigate it, in the Old Testament, God gave his people instructions for how to handle slavery and how to take care of it. Because they had been slaves in Egypt, and he says, do not treat people like this. This is not kingdom principles. So whereas the world or the heathens and Gentiles, it was more okay to take a life, be destructive of your person, they were property. But in the Old Testament, God gave instructions for how to treat one another in a kind way, in a way that the owner was responsible for the well-being of that individual. And even if there was a slavery period or an enslavement, it was something that could be reversed. It was not a for-life situation like the others. It was a 7-year period, and then there's a year of jubilee, and things can be returned, and debts can be paid off and let go of. And so God had his purposes in that. But in this, looking at the idea of slavery in general, because in the Christian walk, regardless, God has given us the opportunity to be free from the slavery of sin and free from being bound by that which the world dictates us to be bound by. And so here we would have it be, for a slave, meaning that a person is a legal property of another, they can be forced to obey them. Their life is dictated by someone else, whether it's where you sleep, what you will do for work, what you will wear, or whether you could be separated from your family or not, or purchased by another. And life has many unknown factors, but that life is in control of another and not in your own control. And so as a slave, you're working for somebody else's kingdom, to bring gain to them, to expand their kingdom, their wealth, their territory, their assets, their property, their helpers in all of this. But when we come into Christ, Christ invites us to be slaves to Christ. He said to be slaves to sin or slaves to Christ. And when these people, and as Paul is talking to them, you are coming under a new rulership if you have come into the kingdom of Christ. And so you are no longer to operate by these other kingdom principles, but now it will be the Holy Spirit who is guiding you, the Holy Spirit that's teaching you where to go and what to do and the things to say and how to be about expanding the kingdom of heaven. And as a slave to Christ, you are no longer bound by circumstances, bound by status, bound by education, bound by gender, bound by financial resources, or bound by the society's edge that there are times that we need to be more politically correct because we are bound by the principles of the kingdom of heaven, rather. And that the expansion of that is under different claims. And the people of God would know a history that is different. And so that is why in verses 3 and onward, when he's telling Timothy, if anyone's teaching other things that are not wholesome, that are not according to the words of Christ, that are not according to the doctrines that lead to godliness, they are proud, they don't know anything, they are obsessed with disputes and arguments over words, from which come evil and envy and strife. And on, it says, have nothing to do with these things. Withdraw from people that are like this. Withdraw from situations that are not going to be productive. But he says that godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. The world's wisdom is that we need to figure out how to expand our own territories, our own kingdoms, and to build up our wealth, to build up our properties, to build up for ourselves, for our own pleasures, for our own uses. And the focus here is on that money and building wealth. And that is the first focus. But God brings in a different principle and says to us, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you. And so when Paul is talking to Timothy about his heavenly portfolio, what does he say is the great assets that he's in need of? It says godliness and contentment. These are gain. The world may look and say, well, all of these acquisitions are gain. God says that may be gain, but that does not always equal godliness. But if you have godliness and you have contentment, you have gain. How many of you could sit there and say, like, oh yes, I've been building into my godliness in my portfolio in Jesus Christ. I'm learning like Paul that I can be content in every situation that I'm facing. No matter the greatest high or the greatest low I'm going through, I'm learning to be content because God has given me everything, he says, and he will provide everything for me. For it says in verse 8, having food and clothing, with these we should be content. How many of you today have food and clothing? We have food and clothing. Tomorrow, we may still need food and still need clothing, but God says that He will provide what we need. The strategies of Christ for building into His kingdom and providing are usually different than what we would naturally easily like. When God was trying to do a new thing, He called Abraham. He said, Abraham, I'm going to make you a father of all nations. He didn't come to Abraham and said, I'm going to make you a father of all nations. Now you need to sit down and think about and strategize and plan how we're going to build this nation, how this is going to come about, how you're going to bless all the nations. No, God said, I am going to make you a blessing. And Abraham could not acquire this on his own. He could not have children. And the training that was given to him for this was he had to leave his family. He had to wander around. He had faced famines a couple different times. So he's facing some hardships. He has a few bumps in the road and he learns, okay, I didn't listen to God. Maybe I need to listen to God and what He said again and try things His way. And in the end, that is what happens. He is building a nation. When God called Moses knew that call. But Moses was thinking those first 40 years of, how is this going to take place? As the leader of a nation, of the mightiest nation on earth, how am I going to free these people so that we can be that nation that God promised our forefathers? But it was not his strategies that worked. When Moses tried to do it, as he was originally thinking the armed forces and political strategies and endeavors, and that must be why he's in this position. He messed up and he killed somebody, which took him 40 years out in the wilderness. And God's like, my training for you is in the wilderness. My training is for you to learn to hear my voice and to follow my strategies. And so when God announces to him at the burning bush that He has a new plan, and that now He's ready to go back into Egypt and take His people out to bring freedom to them, Moses accepted, but it wasn't a case of, well, when's your timing? Can I put this on my calendar for, months down the road? Can I have some time to think about this and pray about that? When God made the call, that was God's timing. God was making movements. God was offering these things to him. And the beautiful thing about that, I love the story. In Hebrews, it gives us a summary. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 24 to 29, it says, by faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God, rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. By faith he kept the Passover and the application of the blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. By faith the people passed through the Red Sea on dry land, and when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. The ruling nation of the world would look down on these Hebrews as slaves, but God saw people He was calling to surpass every nation. In 10 quick strokes, God brought this nation to a crumble. The angel of death passed over the Hebrews, but it took out the firstborn of Egypt. All of the plagues passed over the Hebrews, but it took out the agriculture, the crops, the livestock, destruction. And after that 10th one, as the king, as Pharaoh is going after them to the Red Sea, and they feel again they're in a hardship, they're in a place of difficulty, wondering, how did we follow this? How do we get into this situation just to die? God had His own strategy and parted the Red Sea. And the beautiful thing is that when God parts those Red Seas, when we follow after Him in the ways that He's trying to navigate, there are no losses for us in those ways. But those that tried to follow that were enemies of God were quickly killed and covered over, bringing that whole nation to an end at that point. So Regardless what the status is, when you are a slave to Christ and in his kingdom, he is able to take care and able to provide. And he takes responsibility for all that is taking place. So Paul is telling him, take stock. Take stock in what you are. Look at the history. Look at what God can do from nothing. I don't know where you are in your situation right now, but God has a plan. It may look very bleak, whether it's those financial or relational or for whatever it is that's going on, but God's invitation is, get still with me. I have a way. I can make a way. I have a plan and a purpose. And partner with me and it will come to pass. Reminds me of the story of Peter also. Just how God's able to multiply when we're about his business. Sometimes when we face challenging times, or the times that we want to hold on most to our resources and hunker down into our own comforts and just try and put at bay the stresses of the world or the stresses of family or the stresses at work. And here, when Peter, when he was, when they're finally off doing their mission work after Christ is put into heaven, and they pass that beggar who's asking for funds, who's asking for resources, and Peter just says, silver and gold have I none. I don't got nothing of this. But what I do have, I have in the name of Jesus Christ. Get up. And so what finances could not achieve, faith was able to achieve. As we remember one of my, I think it was my second year or seminary, and again, on a faith journey. God, if you want me there, you keep me there. I have no desire to stay here as far as I'm not taking out loans. If you want me here, you keep me here, and that was the deal. And so one summer, I was planning to stay and work on campus, and so I knew what my amount would be that I could make in order to financially clear for the fall. But God had a different plan. But before I knew that, the pastor was speaking that Sabbath, and he was saying about how, just the blessings of tithes and offerings and giving to the Lord, that God can do more with that 10% that we want to hold on to, or more than that 15% of tithes and offerings, than we can do with it. He can multiply it. And if we are holding on to things that belong to God, we are missing out the multiplications and the blessings that God wants to do for us. And so his challenge was, for those of you who are not giving, my challenge is that you walk with God and honor God, because that is his, and give your tithes and offerings. And he's like, it was a summer, so do a 90-day test. We're going to do 3 months of a test with this. And you come back afterwards and see, did God bless you more? Did God take care of you more? Was God able to do more than what you were trying to hold on to, or not? They said, for those of you that are already giving, I'm asking you to take a step in faith and give up double tithe. And so I was like, okay, Jesus, I'm about this. You've proved yourself again and again in my life when I did not have the resources, when following in your path, because you were teaching that you would provide. But okay, I'm about this. And then God called me to a different job where I looked at the financial gains versus what I could do in my own strength. And I was a little bit worried about how that would play out. But already having committed, I was going to stick with it. Was I a little bit stressed those 90 days later when I was like, how is my school bill going to come to pass now? How is this going to take place? But I've learned that faithfulness is the first key to opening up the windows of heaven. And God still blessed. God still made a way. He was still able to take care of me. One of my friends, I was just catching up with them on the phone. We met about 6 years ago now. They were just sharing how through the roller coasters of life, the blessings that God has given them. And they said, Dana, I really believe it's because we have just been faithful to God. We are faithful in our tithes and offerings. In our circumstances, we are seeking His face. God, how do we honor you? God, how do we live by your principles of the kingdom? How do we honor you as we raise our children? And so no matter the situation and the great highs and the great disappointments, they were recounting the ways that God had blessed them. And one of the first stories that I'm going to take a few moments to share some of these stories before we move further on. And they were saying that when they had been called to live more of a missionary life and do some inner city ministry and help with a church plant, that following year, they were able to go on a mission trip to Kenya and do a Share Him evangelistic series. And when they were there was a lot of people that came up to them just looking to see if they could financially help them this way or that way or another way. And they were feeling overwhelmed because though they had such limited resources, they've abided by the principle that even if our resources are limited, there are other people that have even less in the world than us. And to be faithful in the circumstances that God asked them to be faithful in. And so, as they were praying about it, a quote from a sermon came to this young person's mind, and it just said, there are many times that we would like to help a lot of people, and you may not be able to do that by yourself, but if you can find one person and invest all that you would like to help everybody with into them and let that multiply in their life, then start there. And there was a young man who was felt called to ministry but did not have the funds to attain that education. And as this person, Nick, was praying about it, he felt really impressed that this is somebody that they needed to invest in. And so they said to him, they said, we don't have much money, but we do know people back in America, and our commitment to you will be to fundraise each semester for your education, $1,200. That was the cost of his education. And he had talked to the pastor there to find out more about this individual and his history, and he just affirmed him he is called. He is called, and he's so faithful and so diligent to share the gospel and to help people. And so they came back and they, helped fundraise for that first semester. And that second semester, his wife had gotten pregnant in that first semester, and that was a surprise. And so here they are a month out before she's due to give birth to their first child. And resources are tight, and they've forgotten to fundraise. And his funds are due in just a few days. And she said, we're just going to have to go and tell him we're sorry, and he'll just have to wait another semester, and we forgot, and we're so sorry. But in that, her husband went back to the room and prayed. And after a season of prayer, he came out and said, actually, I really believe that God is asking us to finance this semester. He said, I have to go to work, but I need you to pray and then go check our bank account. Well, she knew that the resources were tight already and was doubtful that there would be enough money in the bank account. And so she didn't even stop to pray. She stopped to open the bank account online, and sure enough, there was not enough funds in there for $1,200. And so she didn't worry about that, but she got a call that there was a box at the church that she needed to come pick up, and she didn't know what that was about. And so as she was driving along the way, she felt impressed to look into her wallet. She knew she had no cash in her wallet, but what she found were a few checks that needed to be deposited. When she got to the church, and there was this box, and there was an envelope in there, and she remembered, even if we have enough, that's right, it's still $40 more to make that transaction. She gets there, she gets this envelope, and it opens, and there is some money in there. There is the exact amount that she is needing to pay this school bill and the fees. She empties her account 1 month before she's due to have her baby. She goes home and starts worrying, what did I just do? I am crazy. Why would we ever think that God is calling us to do this? Why would we do this? Then she just cried, God, I'm giving birth in a month. We don't have anything for this. How is this going to take place? And she remembered that there was a box that had been given her. And she went to open the box. And in the box, she found a plethora of things from friends she had grown up with, all the way on the West Coast, that had got together and done a surprise baby shower and gathered stuff for her. And here was an envelope with $200 worth of gift certificates in it for different things. And she's like, okay, we have never lacked with God. And so she will say after, and they will say in that journey, however God worked it, that we emptied all that we had. And God ended up blessing our bank account 7 times more. And He took care of them. Their story is so amazing that I wanted to document a little bit, because I think for any of us, as we look at the faith journeys, as we look for how to prioritize the kingdom of heaven and what that looks like in our practical lives, there's many challenges that come to us that we might not be expecting, that cause us to question, that can cause us to doubt, acting out in faith on things that God calls us to, whether that's a calling in our life or a move that He's asking us to make, or a different, or not to purchase some things that maybe we'd like to purchase for ourselves. And so they were just sharing again, one of the things is they went to seminary, and again, you're living on one person's income as they're working as a student. She's a stay-at-home mom, and they had this first child, and then God had let them know, you're going to have another child, and it's going to be a son. They had this child, the pregnancy went pretty good, but as the child started to develop a little bit more, they realized that it was not developing as fast or as quickly as they would hope that a baby would develop this joy in Christ. And so this child, then what they did is they're, new parents, young parents, just searching, trying to go to doctors and find out what is wrong with our child. The hand is closed and he's dragging the leg, and just finding out eventually that he probably had an in utero stroke and not a cerebral palsy. Not what you would expect the blessing from the Lord to be when He says, you will have a son. This is the son I'm giving you, and he is a blessing. And so that is child 2 going through this, and somehow in this, with all the music that they do, and they were thinking, if we can financially strategize like this and live like this, and then we'll be able to afford a van by the time we graduate instead of this car. And what happened in their journey there was that somebody gave them a van, all the way out from California. They had prayed, God, we want to find a Hyundai Odyssey. What did come about? Somebody donated, we want to help your family out. Here's a Hyundai Odyssey luxury edition. So as they're saying, as we sought to be faithful to God, God brought about His faithfulness to us and provided things that we needed in ways that we could not afford. And so now, as they are in their final year of seminary, and God lets them know, you're going to have a 3rd child. You're going to have a son, and he'll be born in July. They're looking forward to this son. And they name him based off of some of the promises they felt like God was giving him. And the baby comes. And the baby's not developing as they thought that he should. They're finding there's a lot of different challenges, and what their hopes were, as any parent for a healthy and happy baby, is this baby, whose name means peace, is a child that brings peace. He just turned 1 this last July. I'm going to read a short update on it so that I get it correct. Because again, they're going through the processes, going through the doctors, having testing done, the 500 gene test, the 5,000 gene test. What is wrong with our child? And they said that this is a couple weeks ago, on Wednesday we met with his geneticist for the results of his blood test that took place a couple months ago. And he has the 5q12 syndrome. According to our doctor, only 10 others in medical literature have had it. It means that on one copy of his 5th chromosome, 40 genes are deleted. His stature is short, he has low muscle tone, wandering eyes, and developmental delays all fit this syndrome. Down the road, it's expected we could find out that he could have delays in speech and droopy eyes, seizures, and autistic features as well. So as they look for therapies and this was not what we thought our life would be about. If we could plan our life, we would not have had this situation in it. We would have the ideal, a healthy child that's developing it the healthy ways. But again, they have to look back and say, but God, you told us, you showed us, you gave us this child. You're the author and finisher of our faith. God, how do we partner with you in this journey to raise our children in a way that is going to just bring them into the kingdom and be a witness for others? And so as they graduated from seminary, gotten a call out and back to California where they thought they would not go, and they just said, God has blessed us. And the house that they're in is a house, I mean, if you know financial stuff from California, easily $2,000 a month rent, easily. 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3-car garage. That is not the style or size of house they would go for. She's like, we're minimalists, we like to live simply, and we want to live in something smaller. But this house has been such a blessing for the children to have a big backyard to play in, for the just to have space of their own, as they've not lived in a house of their own before. But the people that are having it just want them to buy it and are trying to make every way possible for them to purchase it. And so their rent is only $1,200 a month. And the people there had left furniture, left many things. They didn't have furniture to fill that space. But they said, you can have anything here that you want. If there's things that you don't want in this house or in the garage that's got more storage stuff in it, you can sell it and you can keep that money for yourself to help with whatever you need. So they're praying about this. God, is this a transitional house for us? Is this a permanent position for us? And in the midst of it, running from doctor's appointment again, living on one salary, a master's salary, having 3 kids, and these children with these special needs. And her 30th birthday is coming up, and it's just amazing. And so because the first child was unexpected and she couldn't finish her degree, and now she's a mother and feels called to raise her children and not go back to school. She has loans. And so all these financial situations that they're navigating. And so her husband came to her and said, if money was not an issue, what would you like for your birthday? If money was not an issue. She thought about it and didn't hesitate. I would love for my loans to be paid off. She had $48,000 worth of loans. That's a big birthday present. But she has a husband that has faith. And he started a GoFundMe project and shared their story, shared their history. And the goal was $30,000. And her birthday, I think, was on the 16th of this month. And so I don't know how much they received by her birthday, but I saw a couple of days ago that it was at $28,000. And I got a text message yesterday saying, Dana, we just broke 30,000. What faith can do, what the body of Christ can do. So their story doesn't quite end there yet as they go through these challenges, because they belong to a church also in California. You know, there's a number of wealthy people in that area also. But somebody who had not been coming to church but just started coming to church again, from what I remember of the story, was watching how they were navigating their situation, watching how they were taking care of their family, and just the way that they were going about it, were just really touched by it. And the times he would preach, because he's not the lead pastor, this individual was so blessed that he just said, you guys shouldn't have more stress in your life. Me and my wife, we want to take care of your doctor's bills for your sons. So while their copay takes care of that, there's about $250, $300, not their copay, but their insurance, we still have copay. So about $250, $300 each month going to just these kids, taken care of. And again, their testimony is, Dana, we just believe we could not do these things for ourselves. God blesses us more, but we just keep that principle in mind that we need to honor God first with our tithes and with our offerings. We need to take care of other people, that even if we might not have much, there's always somebody that has less than we have, and we can help them some way, somehow. And as we feel like we've sought to do that, God just overwhelms us. Our situation may not be what we would have thought it would be if we could navigate our own life and decisions for God's call on our life and His call for motherhood and the children He's given us. but we know that he has his purposes, and we look forward to the kingdom of heaven even more so, knowing that when that day comes, that these bodies will be changed. So as they navigate to the future, and so as we look at the portfolio of heaven, when Paul's talking and he says, godliness with contentment is great gain. In the portfolio of heaven, there's different principles at work. And in verse 8 or verse 9 says, but those that desire to be rich fall into temptations and a snare, and into many foolish, harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Looking at just the priorities. Is money wrong? No. God uses it to be a blessing. In fact, I love this verse in Proverbs 2:26. And it says, to the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth, to hand it over to the one that pleases God. This too is meaningless and a chasing after the wind. So God has his ways of building up storehouses so that he can give to those who are honoring him, give to those that are pleasing him, whether it's in food, showing up with food at the right time for somebody, or in those finances, or in transportation, or whatever that is. God says he will give to the one that pleases him. So often in the scriptures also, and again, I just wanted to mention, so that love of money is just that affection. That's the first affection is for this. Rather than the first affection being for the things of God and for the ways that God wants to navigate. And often, so I guess I'll just go verse 11. It says, but you, O man, flee these things and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and gentleness. So these are the assets that God is asking us to acquire. Anytime that God is asking us to acquire something, or he's calling us out to something, like Abraham, like Moses, these are all things that we cannot acquire on our own, just as we could not acquire salvation. And so we are only going to acquire them as we connect with Christ, as we draw close to Christ, as we learn to discern Christ's voice, as we learn to walk in the ways that he's calling us to, in faith that many times could be outside of our financial scope, outside of our comfort zone, outside of our anything that we could do. But it's in those moments when he's asking us to do those small things that build our character, where we're building into the assets of heaven and building into godliness and faith. And that is where we learn our experience with God, as we walk in those things that he calls us to, and he imputes those things and builds those into us. So he says, fight the good fight of faith and lay hold on eternal life to which you were called, and have made that confession in the presence of many witnesses. Many of us have made that confession that God is our Lord through baptism, through profession of faith. And God's invitation of us is to fight that good fight. Fight that fight of faith. Whatever he's calling you to, whatever he's calling us to. And then those final reminders of just how it is God who says, I urge you in the sight of God, who gives life to all things, and before Jesus Christ, who witnessed the good confession before Pontius Pilate, that you keep this commandment without spot and blameless until our Lord Jesus Christ appearing, which he will manifest in his own time. He who is blessed and the only potentate, the King of kings and Lord of lords, who alone has immortality, dwelling in unapproachable light, whom no man has seen or can see, to whom honor and everlasting power be. So take stock. As you go through your day and as you go through your week, my invitation to you is to take stock. Where is it that you are investing? Because God has proven in the scriptures and proven down through history that he can do more than you can ask or imagine. His ways are not your ways. His thoughts are not your thoughts. But if God's going to do something, and if he's calling you to it or us to it as a community, he's going to make sure that there's provision, abundant provision, regardless of the sacrifice or it may seem in the moment for us. I'm going to close there and we'll play our final song, Cornerstone. So I'd like you to stand. I like standing when we sing, to sing our closing song. Jesus,
Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's blood. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. When darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every hard and stormy gale, my anchor holds within her air. My anchor holds within her air. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. He is He shall come with trumpet sound. Oh, may our head in Him be found, dressed in His righteousness alone. All will stand before the throne.
Father in heaven, God, we thank you that you take care of us. God, and I ask that as we depart from here, Lord, that you would shine the spotlight of heaven on the areas of our life that you're trying to navigate us into, that you're trying to draw us closer to you, Lord. If there's areas that need to be shed or things that need to be cleaned out of our lives, God, that you would spotlight those, Lord, so that we don't miss those blessings that you desire to give. Your glory, your power be displayed through our lives as a result. And Lord, that you promise you will take care of the sheep in your pasture, Lord. And so I guess I just want to say, Lord, provide for those here, provide for the church, Lord. Please make your plans known, God, so we can partner with you.